Heya from England. Now you may be wondering why the sophisticated Australian that I am hiding in a bush in my backyard. Well, quite simply because it's raining. Yeah, right. And also because I've left my keys at home and my housemate is not home at the moment. And I'm locked out, so I thought what a perfect opportunity to sit here and do my winter/summer wrap up, because now I live in the northern hemisphere where it was summer. And anyway, yeah, so hi, I'm not gonna try and do a British accent because it always sounds Jamaican. And add that to the fact that I'm in South Yorkshire, where the accent is particularly strong, and then add that to the fact that I live in an area where it's even stronger, like the South Yorkshire people are like, oh, that's a very distinct accent. So yeah, not gonna happen. Anyway, I just got home from work at my school where I teach year 1, and I love my job. I mean, it's only week 2 and I've only been paid for a week. But I'm, positiving it up, whatever. Right now it is 5:31. Just look at the views for a second, right? 5:31 in England, and it's 2:30 a.m. in Oz. Oh, sorry, I can't. I'm here. As you can see, I have not gotten any... I don't want to say the word sophisticated again. Still a loose cannon. No, I'm not. That's not the right word. Oh, I'm just going to shut up. I'm still... That didn't change. Looks like we have a bird feeder that I didn't know about. Anyway, so there's a storm coming, Harry. And, yeah. I'm just going to shut up and do the books I read this month. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books in summer/winter. The first one was not... Oh no, that was the last one. The first one was Raelia by Lynette Noni. This is the second book in the Midorian Chronicles. And, I mean, the book's pitched as Harry Potter / Narnia. And it's a pretty good pitch. Maybe even a little X-Men. It's just like about all these kids who are in a school, and this chick, she like gets sucked from our world into the netherworld, or Raelia. No, Raelia's dead. No. Anyway, this is the second book in a fantasy series. It's really good. Lynette, she's an Australian. I actually got to meet her this year when I was working at a book event, and she was there, and she's lovely, and I really love the series, and I have great things to say about her and it, and I gave it an 8. And to keep the pace of this video going, I'm just going to head on to the next one, which was Vegetarian by Kang. This was a very odd book. I only picked it up just because I was working in the bookstore, and it won some award, and I started reading the back, but it didn't give anything away. So then I read the first chapter and I was like, ooh, this sounds really intense and weird. So I read it, and it was very intense and weird. The further it got along in the book, I'm just trying to remember, because this is like 3 months ago I read it. The further it got along, the weirder, not weirder, but the pace changed dramatically, and I liked it less the further it got along. It started really good, and then I just didn't like the direction it kind of went in, because it had 3 different personas that it was, coming from, or povs. Anyway, I gave it a 7. It still was really good. Do you want to know what it's about? It's about this lady who becomes a vegetarian, and her husband's like a psycho. But she's really weird, and her family's really weird, and her brother-in-law's like in love with her, and he's really into art. And then the last bit's from her sister. It just looks at mental health, but it's also kind of it reminded me of a little bit of the Black Swan, where it's mental health, but there is a little bit something else going on, because she thinks she's turning into a tree, but maybe she is turning into a tree. So yeah, I gave that a 7 if I didn't already say. Then I read Lady Midnight by Sandra. I just written down LM. I'm like, what is that? And then I saw the 9, and anyway, I gave this a 9. This is the first book in the Dark Artifice series, which is like spin-off, I guess, to the Mortal Instruments and the the Infernal Devices. And I really love this series. I mean, this is only the first book, but you know, I love that world. And I've been following like the Mortal Instruments since there was only 2 books, and so I'm very invested. I really liked Emma's character when she was introduced in the final Mortal Instruments book, so I was really excited to see her grown up, and I really liked her and Jules's, you know, dynamic. Yeah, I really liked it. I'm so excited she's keeping going with that, and I gave it a 9. Then I read The Ballad of Sam and Delilah, and this is by Karen Stockwell. I first started corresponding with Karen when she released her first book, Dreams of Darkness and Light, and I actually did an interview with her. You can see that on my website or blog or whatever you want to call it, for that book. And so when she, you know, released her latest book, she sent me a copy to read and review, and I did that, and I really liked it. I mean, the first one was quite spiritual and, you know, set in the mountains, and there was Australian, so I guess I had a lot to relate to, whereas this one was, you know, about 2 musicians and, you know, a little bit more everyday life, but I still really enjoyed it. Like, I do read across the board when it comes to books, and although it wouldn't be something that I would be like, oh, that's my favourite genre, I still really liked it, and I do like to read that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I gave it a 7.5, and it was a really nice read. It was very real, like one of those very real stories where they're people, and, you know, it's not like the romance isn't, you know, like everything mind-blowing and like it is, you know, in dramas, which is exciting, but it's also kind of nice to bring things back to earth. Hurry up, Brittany. Then I read The Art of Purring by David Michie. This is the second book in the Dalai Lama's cat series, and I love these books. They're so good. The cat is just so relatable. Like, she goes through so many trials that humans go through, but she like pictures it from a cat and makes it so simple, but it just, the way it relates to your life, you're like, oh, like I make this out to be a big deal, but it's exactly the same thing as what she's going through, and you get to follow all the characters from the story. And I listened to this actually as an audiobook as I was traveling around Europe, and the day before I left, my cat was really sore. She had a really sore hip, and she was really like meow, like, and we weren't sure what happened because it was just her hip that was sore. And then I got to England, and my parents told me she died. So that's Brax for you guys who probably have seen her in my videos. So it was heartbreaking for me to listen to it, but also really nice because, like, she was such a lovely cat, and, you know, I got to appreciate the presence that an animal, specifically a cat, can have in your life. And so, while it was sad, especially at that point of my life, to be listening to it, it was also really nice to be reminiscing about my baby girl. I gave it a 7.5. Then I got to my Airbnb in South Yorkshire, and my host said I could have a look at her books, and I picked up The Husband's Secret by Leanne Moriarty. And before you ask, you're in England, why would you have an Australian author? Her husband is Australian. She lived in Australia for 10 years, so that's why. And I loved it. I read Jacqueline, the other sister, her young adult fantasy series, The Colours of Madeline, which I adored, and so I really loved this one. It's like so 4 different husbands, I think there is, or maybe there's just 3, and all these like things that are intertwined. It was like a way more serious and suspenseful version of, you know, like Valentine's Day, or He's Just Not That Into You. And yeah, so there's like a murder, there's cheating, there's something else, but I was so hooked. I like picked this book up I read it in 2 sittings, and I only put it down the first time because I realised my friend had been gone for like an hour and a half, and she said she was going to be gone for an hour, so I was like, oh, I have to go find her. And anyway, she was fine, FYI. And I gave it a 9. The last book I read in Sumter, winmer, whatever, was Not Without My Sister. This is by Julianne, Christina, and Celeste. And they are 3 sisters who are part of the Children of God cult. And it gives very graphic details of like all 3 of their childhoods, and really specific information into how a cult works and how their cult worked, and it was so intriguing. I wanted to read that, and I found it for like, I think £3 in a news agency, and I got it and I read it and I loved it, and that's that. And I gave it an 8. And yeah, so that was my Sumter wrap up from England. I'm sorry I don't have anyone English here to prove I'm in England. Maybe like I'm just in Australia and I'm just scamming like, oh, I'm not really in England. Gotcha. But anyway, I'll show you my backyard so that you believe it, because like, oh, I have a teacher planner. That's how serious things are. Look at that. See, there's the storm I told you about. There's my house. Oh, my dress is still hanging up. And like, that's my yard. See, it looks English. It's overcast, so surely I'm in England. Ah! And that's that. Thanks for watching. I hope to be more active, but I just started my first year teaching, so don't hold your breath. Love you all. Bye.